Hello and welcome to a new A to Z World's Foods video, brought to you by the Estimate Public Library and the Weyburn Public Library. A to Z World Foods is one of our many free e-resources we have through the Southeast Regional Library website. You can find it under e-resources at the Southeast Regional Library's website. Today we are going to be making banana fritters. This particular recipe comes from Djibouti, which is a country in South Africa. The banana is a particularly popular fruit there, and banana fritters are an easy to prepare, tasty dessert or snack, or if you're looking for a sweeter breakfast option, it would be great for that as well. In addition to nutmeg, this pancake-like dish can include cinnamon, vanilla, toppings of honey and syrup, other things like that. There's a lot of flexibility with it. This particular recipe makes about 24 small banana fritters, and another great thing about this recipe is it's super allergy friendly and has very few ingredients. For this recipe, we will need a little bit of water, some nutmeg, about 6 ripe bananas, some sugar, some flour. The original recipe calls for rice flour. We will be using wheat flour today. You will need an oil or a fat to fry your banana fritters in. And then for equipment, you'll need a pan, something to flip your fritters with, and I'm going to be using my scale today to measure the ingredients, and I will leave the conversion of how many cups that is in the description with the recipe below. So we're going to start with the sugar and water because those two need to dissolve together. So we're going to start by adding our 60 milliliters, or about 4 tablespoons of water, into our bowl here, so that way we can start dissolving our sugar. I recommend using warm water, as the sugar will dissolve a little bit faster and you'll have time to let it cool down. And 60 grams of sugar into our water. That equals about 4 tablespoons of sugar, and then you're just going to mix it in and let it start to dissolve. So this way it incorporates into your banana flour mixture a little bit better. So we're going to set that aside and move on to our bananas. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to break up our bananas, and we're just going to put them in. You can use a bowl or sort of anything you have that you would normally make, say, pancakes in to help. And you want your bananas to be ripe. So it's okay if they're a bit bruised and beat up. It'll just add to the flavor. So we're going to break those guys up. And then I'm just going to start with my fork to kind of mash them up. If you wanted, you could also probably use your blender to give them a good mashing as well. Once you are satisfied with the mashed consistency of your bananas, you can move on to your flour. So for this recipe, you need about 115 grams of flour, or about a cup. We're just going to start by mixing our flour in with our bananas. And once you've sort of got that started, you can add in your sugar water. And you're going to add your water in and start combining those things all together. And you're, again, trying to get a pancake-like dough. You might need to go back in and mash your bananas a bit more. You may need to add more water, or possibly more flour. And, of course, we can't forget the nutmeg. So this recipe gives you a bit of fluctuation on how much nutmeg you add. You can go between a half teaspoon and a full tablespoon. I'm gonna do a half teaspoon because that seems like enough for me. So we're gonna mix that in. All right, so I have some oil in a little jar here. We're just gonna brush our pan with some oil, give it a nice little coating, and you might need to do this a couple times as you're cooking multiple fritters. We're gonna use a 1/4 cup measure here to plop our fritter on the pan here. And now we're just gonna sort of watch, listen, see how it goes. There we go. So once you flip it over, you can let it cook to the other side, just like you do when you're making pancakes. The fritters are very similar. Maybe you'll want to go flip it over a couple more times to get it nice and golden brown on both sides, but that's really up to personal taste. So once both sides of your fritter are nice and golden brown, you can toss it aside, and if you think your pan still got enough oil on it, you add the next one. So let's get through this next batch of them and then we'll give it a try. Alright, so here is our banana fritters. They definitely look good. I would definitely think cooking them in a butter would be easier than using the oil, but that is just my experience. But we're going to give one a try. I put some honey on mine. I think if you like bananas and you have some you need to use up, I think it's definitely a great recipe. And I imagine you could mix in some other things, other fun things like chocolate or peanut butter, if you want to go outside of the very allergy-friendly recipe. But like I said, you can use other types of flour outside of just wheat flour. But yeah, so this recipe and many more can be found on A to Z World Foods, which you can access through the Southeast Regional Library website. And it's free to anyone who has a Southeast Regional Library card. So, happy cooking. The recipe will be in the description. I'm Anna Lawrence from the Estevan Public Library.